Hello, my name is Manley. I'm new to Blender. I've tinkered with Blender over the past couple weeks, and I've come to quite like it. I'm a 2D compositor. I work in the film industry. Reason for making this tutorial is the show that we're currently working on requires a lot of clouds, and our effects guys have been pretty bogged down with the amount of shots that we have. So I kind of took it into my own hands to make some of my own clouds to fill in the gaps. In my research, I found a great tool that Blender offers called the Cloud Generator. This was created by a man named Nick Keeline. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's an add-on for Blender, and it's a great little tool. If you just need a quick little cloud or something, it's awesome. And yeah, it was a great starting point for me. And I didn't find a whole lot of tutorials on the web on how to do clouds well. And so I wanted to create a tutorial for everybody to, anybody who did want to make clouds and kind of direct it a certain way. So yeah, this is what this tutorial will be about. So thanks, Nick, for starting me off there. Let's get started. What I'm aiming for is a shot of us up in the clouds a little bit. Maybe let's actually bring that browser back up and just kind of quickly look. Something kind of like this. So that'll be our goal. Go to side view. Going to bring the camera and lock it. And then we're going to move it up. We're going to kind of treat this grid as our horizon here. Let's go with the top view. Yes, top view. And let's use this cube, the default cube, and make a container. It's going to be a volume container. So let's scale this guy up more in the X and then in the Y. Whoa, maybe a little bit too much. Let's change this box to a wireframe so we can see through it. We don't need quite as much in the z-axis. Zoom up here. Let's expand it a little bit more. Make sure we get those guys out of the camera box there. We also need a plane. We will also scale this guy up so that he fills this container. Make sure he's inside the container as well, but not above the camera. Maybe like that. Inside still. Okay, let's lower the volume down, the volume box down a little bit. Cool. Now let's not forget naming, a little naming convention. So the cube we're gonna call volume. Volume box. Plane, we're going to call this the emitter. Cool beans. The emitter. So, as you can tell, emitter means we need a particle system. So let's add a particle system to the emitter, the plane. We'll call it cloud particles. Emission, let's try 80,000. Star and end frame will be 1. Emit from faces, yes, we want it to be random. Velocity, 0.7. Cool. Render, we don't want to render the emitter. We don't want anything on the particles, but we do want to see them, so we'll change the display type to point. That's cool. Awesome. Yay. We also need to turn off the gravity. Where is the gravity? So our particles don't react to that. Now select the volume box. In the shader tab, we need to change the material to volume. Call this volume shader. Call it cloud. Cloud shape. Cloud shader. Yeah. I'm decisive right now. The default settings are fine for now. Then we'll go to the texture tab. Change the default texture name to cloud texture. Wow. Texture. Type, clouds. Now, you can mess with this however you want, but I'm going to leave it default. I'm going to leave everything default. Make sure your emission is checked on, though. You need that. But the rest of the settings are fine. I'm going to add another texture, new. I'm going to call this cloud particles. I'm going to change the type to point density. Down in the point density, for the object, we want the emitter plane. And in there, we want our particles, our cloud particles. Come down, we want to turn on turbulence. Leave that default for now. Coordinates, we want to turn that to global. We also want the influence to be, the density to be checked on, emission checked on, and RGB intensity checked on. One thing I forgot to do, we go back to our volume shader. We want to turn density down. My phone. Reason we want to do that is because if we were to render it right now with this density up, I mean, we can do it if we want. Just you can see what happens. It's going to be black. Why? Because it's rendering the volume as it is, and I guess our camera's kind of almost inside it, so it's you're not getting any kind of light, and our light is just a little point light, so it's probably not going to reach us anyways. So what's happening here is when we turn the density down, you're not going to see it, and then because we have filled the box volume with this texture, what's going to happen is when these particles float around in here, wherever these particles are, you're going to see the volume texture cloud. And anywhere there's not particles, you're not going to see anything. So yeah, first things first, where's that light? Okay, take the light. We want the light to be a sunlight. Rotate it a little bit so we get a little bit of interesting light to it. Yes, let's put a little bit of a gold tint to it. Render settings, I like to render RGB. Shading, we want to turn the alpha from sky to transparent. Alright, last thing we want to do is we want to add a force to move these particles around. We'll start with a turbulence. We'll go over to the forces tab here. Turn strength to, let's try 7. Size, try with 2.3. Totally making these up. And then just some kind of a little bit of noise. Make sure global is checked as well. Excuse me. Let's lift it up out of here so we can select it easily if we need to later. Yes. I can't remember if I've forgotten anything. So let's just play these particles a little bit. Cool. What does it look like in here? Ooh, that might be, we might have to lift the camera. Let's try rendering that and see what we get. Alright, we get some crappy looking clouds. Yeah. Well, let's tinker with this a little bit, shall we? So let's, I want to fix this camera first. Feels really weird. Oh, they just raised too fast. Okay, so let's change how fast they fly up. So in the emitter tab, we'll go to the particles and change the normals. Let's put that to 0.3. See how that looks. Much better. And good. Okay, so the clouds are pretty see-through. So the first thing you gotta change, or we gotta change, is in our volume shader, scatter. What scatter does is it allows, it tells you how much sun or light can penetrate through the clouds. So the lower the number, the more the light can penetrate. The higher, the less. So let's put that up to 2. The density, well, that's kind of self-explanatory, how dense the volume is. We'll put that up a little bit. 1.5 is good. for now. Then well, let's just render that and see how much of a difference that makes. So a little bit. It's thicker. I think that sun is way too yellow. So let's back that off a little bit. More whitey. Cool. Let's even rotate that sun a little bit more. I want to try and get some shadows off this if we can. Do that again. Cool. All right. Not too bad. Got a little bit empty spot here, so what we're going to do is go inside our camera, and let's just move it forward a little bit into the clouds, and even, raise it up a little bit. Whoa, 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 whoa. Forward. Cool. Let's try here. Just want to get rid of that edge in the front. There we go. Oh. Still a little bit. All right. Move it forward again. And up again. And up, down, up. Cool. Let's try that. How does that look now? Awesome. Better camera angle. Still, yeah, cool. Awesome. So now let's start try and make these clouds, this volume look like clouds. So, volume box in the shader texture cloud particles. So a lot of your settings are going to be driven from the turbulence and the turbulence and the point density, mostly turbulence. So let's start with actually the fall off. Change it to soft. I found that to be not bad. I set the fall off curve kind of up here. What this kind of does is just like, or at least to my understanding, I could totally be wrong because, like I said, I'm new to Blender. But I found this to affect, well, obviously the fall off of the light when hitting the volume. So it's just a nice softer fall off, and then when you do this, it just makes the edges harder from the light. You'll see in a second. But if I'm totally wrong, you comment. I don't care. Correct me if you will. That's how I will learn. Yes. Okay. So down here, noise type. Right now set to Blender Original. These different settings. The F1 is a how do I say that? A thicker kind of noise. Like you'll get chunkier looking clouds with this, and then if you go all the way up to here, you'll get really fine wispy detail. So I'm going to start with a F3. Now these three settings here, this is turbulent strength. Yeah, actually it says it right there. So turbulent strength, the quality or detail, and then the size of the turbulent noise. So yeah, let's play with that. This is the inside of the volume of it, obviously. So size 0.7. I'm going to try turbulent of, let's try 3 for now. Depth, we'll just go up to 6. So just with these settings alone, I'm going to slot 2 here, render this, and see the difference. Ooh. One thing we're going to change quickly, because that just destroyed it. Let's put the radius up to 0.7. This is the radius of the particles in here, so it doesn't get so sparse. And let's try that. Cool. So let's just go back and forth. You can use J to bounce back and forth. Before, after. Man, I actually think it doesn't look as good. Weird. But actually, you can kind of see that there's more detail, but it kind of lost the nice changing color. We're gonna fix that. All right, let's go back to that sun. For some reason, it's not doing what I want it to do. Let's try 2. I want to see if this is going to create a harder shadow. Kind of. Okay, we're going to try a couple of things. We're going to, it's already pretty. We're going to rotate just a little bit more. In our turbulence field here, we're going to put 10. We're going to make the size a little bit bigger so that changes. So sim that, we'll say 15, and then render that. See if it has changed in a better way. It's pretty low res. You might have to render a higher res to see if we're actually making this look nice. Okay, so that is looking a little bit better, I think. Yep, definitely. I like it better. So I'm going to try a little bit higher of a scatter. Let's say 2.5. And then in our texture, whoa, in here, let's try put my detail size down. Let's put that down to like 0.4. Turn this up to 3.2. And let's render that. Alright, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to render this at a high res. So, quick run through on high res settings. So go to the volume shading tab. Under options, turn up full sampling. That is going to kill your renders fast. And actually, I forgot in our texture under the cloud particles texture, down here we're going to turn the depth up to, let's say, 20. And then render tab. I don't think I have to change anything in here. We're not going to change anything in here. We're going to leave it like this. And I'm going to start rendering the sucker, and I will show you when it's done. And we are done. Now, while I was not recording, I changed a couple of settings because I forgot to change them. So what you need to do before you start rendering is in the volume box under in the shader, in the texture. The texture? No, it's the volume box. Yes. So under the shader, in the volume, there is a step size. This was 1.2. I've changed it just to 1.1, but it makes a lot of difference in quality and in render time. This took about 50 minutes to render one still image. Yeah, and I put my resolution to 100. I also changed the resolution here to full 1080p, not half HD. And I also brightened up the sun a little bit. I actually did a lot, and I also changed the turbulence strength so that it poofed up a little bit more. And so yeah, that is what came out. And yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little bit wispy, maybe in some areas, and kind of blobby-ish in others. But I mean, you get the idea. You just tweak those settings in the texture here. Oh, don't give me that. In the particle texture, you just mess with these settings mostly, and the occasional here and there. So yeah, let's take this into the compositing side of Blender here, and just do a simple A over B, as I have no compositing experience with Blender. Alright, so we're just going to try and do a quick composite. I am in Node Editor, and you have to have this composite and use nodes and backdrop. This will be my second time using this guy. So, I mean, if you already know how to composite in Blender, great. You go at it. I'm just going to quickly try and put a background or something in here. I picked out a little blue sky. Ooh. Brain fart. There, Blender stuff. Projects, testing clouds, sky, excuse me, hiccup. I already read in a little forum that to do an over, it is alpha over. And you control to cut that. Background apparently goes on the top here, and then the foreground goes on the bottom. Plug that into your composite, and voila. So just gotta quickly desat this because it's too saturated. And I'm totally doing that to the wrong one. Try it again. Resaturation here. Bring that sucker down. Maybe shift it a little more to blue. Cool. Alright. How about we put a little mask in this thing? Input. No. Input? Yes. How the heck does that work? Well, I mean, I guess you guys get the idea. Works, yay. So there's your clouds. Hope you like this tutorial. Yeah. If you have any questions, ask, but you probably know more than I do, so yeah. That's my little spiel on the clouds. Thanks for your time, guys.